Hello, Tech Pros, episode 249.
They start with a couple failures before they see successes, but the payoff is just so worth it.
Welcome to the podcast where we explore the opportunities, challenges, and anxieties that technical professionals and techpreneurs face when building their career, building their products, and building their business. This show is about the people behind technology and the mindsets and skill sets they developed that led to their success. You can learn more about this podcast and our guests at hellotechpros.com and about overcoming social anxiety at anxietynerd.com. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Matt Schuberg. Happy Saturday, Matt.
Thanks, Chad. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You bet, man. Are you ready to hustle?
Oh, yeah. Always.
Always. Fantastic. Matt Schuberg is the co-founder and CEO of RealCap. With over 5 years of experience in real estate and finance, Matt has developed a deep understanding of how to effectively raise capital and how to serve clients properly. His passion for real estate and investing is what drives him to continue to work to create innovative opportunities for his investors. Matt was born and raised in Southern California. He lives in Santa Monica, where he enjoys surfing, hiking, playing basketball, and during the winter, he'll usually be snowboarding at Mammoth Mountain or at the Coliseum for a USC football game. Matt also loves to read, write, spend time with his family and friends, and hustle and make money on Entrepreneurship Saturday. Ain't that right?
Yep. Of course. That last part, most important.
Most important. I don't know about most important when you're talking about family and friends.
Maybe family, yeah.
But it's up there. It's definitely up there.
Close second.
Cool, man. So, tell us about this idea of real estate investing. What got you into real estate investing as a young Matt, whether it was 6 months ago or 6 years ago?
Sure. So, I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, I believe. I think that's why I got into business school and everything. And I was really interested in the stock market growing up, but I started realizing how unpredictable it was, and, it was so hard telling my clients what's going to happen when I really didn't know, to be honest. And I started reading a lot of personal finance books, and I came across, I think it was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad book that really changed my whole perspective on the market and everything. And it's what got me into real estate. And I started getting really interested in it, started reading a lot more about it. And then I came across crowdfunding, I'd say about a year ago or so. And I thought the concept was really interesting. It seemed like a way for people to invest in private companies without, needing to have a lot of capital or anything. So I started looking into it, and, obviously real estate started becoming a passion of mine when I realized how much more control you have over your properties compared to the market. So I met a person on Bigger Pockets who's now my business partner, and brought the idea up to him, and he was 100% in from the start. So just kind of validated my idea and made me really excited to start moving forward with this concept.
Cool, man. So how technical is this? So we're talking to software developers and server admins and DBAs and all kinds of super geeky technical people. Is this something where you really need a lot of technology and analytics and like graphs and all this kind of stuff to track it? Or is it just like anything like my mom could do? Like you log onto an app, you put in $20 and then you're like invested?
I'd say it's a little in between. How it works is it's all done online. So we're investing in real estate, so technically we are a real estate investment company. But the thing is, it's all done online. I mean, you create an account with us, you browse our investments, you invest however much you want, and from there, you can just check your investment online. It's very passive investment, and I think the category that we're being put in now is financial technology. So it's kind of, a way to move along the real estate industry. It's kind of been lagging as far as technology goes. So I think it's a little bit in between as far as, who can do it and things like that. It's pretty simple, but at the same time, you have to have some pretty good knowledge of how to use the computer and everything. So
yeah, that fintech space, that financial technology space is huge, and it's booming, and there's so many innovations going on in that space. And so I love hearing these stories. And to be quite honest, it's one of the most popular topics that my audience gets fired up about every time I post on like a product hunt, which is where you track like all the newest gadgets and gizmos and podcasts and whatnot. Like the fintechers like are all about wanting to hear about those episodes. So I know there's a lot of product hunt people tuning into this episode to see, all right, how can I take some of the money that I've made from my 9-to-5 job, right, and invest it in something so eventually I can leave my 9-to-5 job
exactly
and do my own thing. So before we do that, let's get into like what does entrepreneurship, just basic entrepreneurship 101, but Matt's flavor of that. What does entrepreneurship mean to you?
I would say entrepreneurship means to me that, someone's willing to take the leap and take risks and show, try to live up to their true potential. And to me, I was tired of working for someone else. I didn't see myself working for someone else my whole life. So it was just taking that challenge, trying to validate my idea and wear all these different hats and figure out while I go what I need to do and everything. Obviously you're not born and you've already started a company. It's kind of something you have to learn while you go. You can't just do it or practice it or anything like that. I think the best way to learn is just jumping in and taking that risk and seeing how it goes. And it's awesome. It's exciting. And that's what I think entrepreneurship is.
Man, I love two of the key points that you kind of put into your specific definition is number one, you have to learn it. Like we think, at least I thought for years and years, you're either born with this or you're not. You're either good at it or you're not. But it's really like, do you have that passion and willingness to get into it and try it and to experiment and to learn and probably make some failures, which takes me to the second point. You've said a couple of times, validating the idea. So why is it so important that you validate the idea as opposed to just like knowing what's something going to work or what something's like probably not going to work?
Right. I mean, I think there's so many people who, they would think they have these ideas that would be great market ideas and that would sell really well. But when it comes down to it, it's really just a product they'd be interested in. And obviously, you're not the one who's going to be buying your product. So you really have to think of it from the customer's perspective and see if there's really a true market for what you're doing. And I think a lot of people, they just come up with this idea and that they're never going to take action on it. So it's kind of just this magical concept that they think, oh man, if I were to start my own company, I do really well, but they don't actually pursue it or anything and find out. So I think it's important, to try to, once you come up with the idea, try to bring it up to, whoever you have, friends, family, anyone who's willing to listen and see if they really think it would be a good idea or not.
So in your case, you went out to Bigger Pockets. You found a co-founder or another investor in this idea, and so that was the way that you kind of validated this product, the RealCap product. Yeah,
basically. I mean, I got onto biggerpockets.com and is a great resource for me learning real estate and everything. And I met my partner Tim a couple years ago, and we started partnering on deals and things like that. Just us personally. And the crowdfunding industry in 2012, there was a passing of the Jobs Act. It was a whole regulation that just made it a lot easier to do it. And so I started looking into it a lot more and realizing how big this industry was getting and how fast it was growing. So it was kind of a combination of those two. I can tell, the concept was very interesting to me, and I thought, oh, I can definitely see this becoming a much bigger thing in the future, and especially as regulations get less and less stringent. So it was a little bit of both. I'd say, hearing my business partner be so excited to join me on it, and then seeing all these other companies popping up and how much success they were having in the industry, just those two things were the main points that made me realize this might be a great opportunity.
Cool. And then what drove the specific idea of RealCap? Like what was the impetus? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I wasn't really interested in the stock market anymore. I had such a great interest for it growing up, and I started realizing how difficult it was to predict and generate good returns for clients and things like that. So I started looking into real estate, and I just loved all the aspects of it, how you have control and leverage and appreciation, all these different things. And I'd say I was looking to do that while I was working in the stock market as a financial advisor. I was doing real estate on the side, and I just wanted a way to I felt like I was trying to do two different things that didn't really correlate too much to me. And I wanted to turn my passion of real estate into my career instead of just doing it part-time on the side and everything. And I felt like that was a great way to get me where I wanted to be sooner. So like I said, the stock market was just too volatile, hard to explain to clients. And so real estate became what I wanted to focus on. And that's when I kind of made the transition.
Well, to be honest with you, Matt, like real estate itself kind of stresses me out. I've looked at it several times, and the problem is there's so many different options. There's so many different niches, and it's like, what do I do? Do I do commercial, or do I do residential, or do I do raw land and try to upgrade it, or do I do like even within each of those categories, there's subcategories a million times deep. And it's like, I don't know what, if I'm going to get into the real estate market, like what's like an entry level, or do I just pick one that I feel like I know more about, or pick one that my business partners know more about? So if there's a newbie 101 real estate investor out there who's thinking about getting into like the fintech space or into the real estate space, and they want to invest some money in there, where would you say they start?
That's a really good question. I totally agree. Real estate, there's so many different ways to do it and different ways to be successful. And it's tough starting out. I mean, you have no idea what to do. You have this property that you have to manage and everything. So for me, it's all personal preference, I would say. But in my opinion, that's what I liked so much about the crowdfunding industry. It's a place where new investors who don't know much about real estate can invest money with real estate professionals who've been doing this forever, and they don't have to worry about all the day-to-day management and things like that. They can invest their money and learn how real estate works and see how their investment does and what's going on with the investment as they get updated through their fund. And I think it's a great place to start. Otherwise, if you're looking to get into real estate directly and manage it yourself and everything, my first recommendation would be to try to find someone who's done it before that you can kind of learn from and have as a mentor. So it's tough jumping in by yourself to start out. I think that's a very risky situation and can be really difficult to be successful if you don't really know what you're doing.
All right, so let's educate Chad and maybe a few of the listeners today on like if we were going to get started, if we're kind of on the fence or we really want to get into real estate, but we're not really sure where. Like, what is RealCap all about, and why would we want to start there?
Sure. So RealCap, what we are is an online crowdfunding company, as I mentioned. And right now we're only offering our first fund, which is we're investing in self-storage properties across the nation. So how it works is we're looking to raise a capital, and once we get to a certain point where we feel like we can acquire the properties we're looking for, we will start investing. And we're looking to acquire about 5 to 10 properties across the nation. And how it works is once we have those properties, based on the rental income we bring in from those properties, we pay out our investors. We do quarterly distributions of 8% a year, and then our investors also own 80% of the properties we acquire. So, any appreciation in the property or anything like that, any other profits that we make through the property, our investors will take a proportionate amount of that of 80%, and we have the other 20%. And what that does is make sure our interests are in line with our investors. Obviously, the better the properties do, the better it is for both us and our investors. So, yeah, I mean, we found self-storage to be a very profitable niche that not many people are focusing on. So a lot less competitive than other industries, like you mentioned, the commercial section. So we thought it was a good way to start out and kind of differentiate ourselves from other funds and offerings.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that self-storage market, right? So every town that I move to, right, there is a self-storage place somewhere within 5 or 10 miles, and usually there's a few of them around. And I think about trying to do the quick math in my head of all the different houses, all the different homes, all the different overflow garages that have moved into self-storage. And so what does this market look like? So it seems like everywhere I go, there's a new place being built, like there's a new self-storage yard or lot being built somewhere. Is this a really booming economy here in this market? Why is there so much demand for it?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons I would say. Self-storage, it's not really a sexy investment. You're not going around telling your friends how, you flipped this property, and, it's not very good to look at. It's kind of boring when you drive by. You don't really notice them, but it can be so profitable and so much easier to manage since, you don't have tenants, and it's so much easier to replace someone if they leave. I mean, you don't have to deal with this whole eviction process or anything like that. It's just you clean up the storage property or the unit and you move in the next person. It's so simple, and you can even have a kiosk that handles all the payments and everything. And you basically don't even need anyone there except to oversee the property. But yeah, I think the self-storage industry is booming, and it's very recession resistant because people when they're making money, they have extra stuff to store, and then when the market goes down, they obviously a lot of times have to downsize, unfortunately, and that leads to them needing a place to store the stuff they can't fit in their new place. Or so there's a lot of times it's needed, and that's why you see so many around. But the demand for them is still extremely high, and supply, as far as our research shows, is still really low. So we think this is a great market to get into, and it doesn't really matter what time of year or what the market conditions are. It can still be very profitable.
Cool, man. So that's very interesting that you basically got like a security person or somebody working there at the front desk that kind of manages the accounts or just kind of keeps an eye on things, make sure that everything's legit, like there's no bad people back there doing bad things and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, you've got the customers, the clients, kind of self-service, right? They're coming in through the gates, they're going out through the gates, they're going to their lockers, they're unlocking it, they're responsible for their items, for their security of their items, and it's not like, as you said, it's not like people are living there or people are working there where you have to evict them. Like if they're not paying their rent, dude, you put a lock on it and you sell off their stuff, right? You auction off their stuff. So that's like kind of another way to make a little extra revenue on this property. Is, right. Yeah, kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to self-storage, a lot of people, when they think of real estate and managing their own properties, I don't want to fix toilets or get calls from my tenant at 2 a.m. and have to fix something. And those are things you don't really have to deal with when you manage self-storage. It's just a lot easier to manage on your own and figure out ways to lower expenses and increase profits, and you don't have to worry too much about bad tenants, which is a really great positive benefit.
Okay, so if we're going to crowdfund a new unit or a new self-storage location, right? So you said you're gonna build 5 to 10 properties across the nation. Like, what's the overall investment for, say, a single location in kind of generic USA?
Yeah, so we're not actually developing our own self-storage properties. We're actually looking to purchase ones that have already been built, but we're looking for value-add opportunities where there's a lot of things we can do to increase profits at that location and add value through, if there's extra land, adding boat and RV storage and maybe solar panels and possibly a cell tower. Things like that is what we look for, in places that are around 50% occupied, where we can increase occupancy and just add value a lot of different ways. But the properties we're looking for mostly, I would say, are around the 500,000 to 2 million range is usually the size of the property, and usually anywhere from 2 to 500 units, I would say.
And so how many investors are you looking at trying to acquire? Are you talking about, okay, as crowdfunding, we're trying to get 5 people or 10 people, or is it more like 1,000 people together to pay this debt?
Yeah, in general, I mean, it can be either one, but when it comes to crowdfunding is more about a lot of investors. It's kind of a much bigger scale of syndications, which are, a couple investors that you can get to invest in a property. So, I mean, obviously it'd be great if someone was willing to give us 10 million, which is what we're trying to raise, and we'd be totally happy to have that one person. But the more likely scenario is a lot of investors investing 10,000, 100,000, anywhere in that range is usually what we're expecting. So I'd say anywhere from, a couple hundred is probably the number we're looking at.
And how do you? Maybe this is something we can talk about after the break. So you can tell me, hey, this is going to be a long answer, or this is a quick and easy one. But how do you manage all of those investors, right? What's the kind of tech, since we're talking to tech pros today, behind? Okay, Chad and 100 of his buddies are going to get together here and like invest all this money in this stuff. How are you managing all those accounts?
Yeah, it's definitely something you have to think about. And the way we're doing it is we have this partnership with a company we're working with, and what they give us is this whole platform to use, where once you invest with us, you have this whole dashboard that you can use, and that's kind of where we do our updates and everything. And obviously we'll send out emails and things like that to keep our clients and investors informed on what's going on. But this dashboard is a place where anytime you want, you can log in online and you can check what investments you've done and how much you've invested and which investments and how they're performing, what new properties we've acquired, what the details are on that. So it kind of makes it a lot easier for us to kind of get all the information out to everyone at once without, having to contact them individually. And the hope is, that everyone kind of trusts us and doesn't have to call us every time to see what's going on, and they can just check their account online. Like I said, everything's online. So I think that's the main way we plan on doing it. And, hopefully it doesn't really matter how many investors we have. We can have 1 or 300 and it'll still be the same process for us.
Cool, man. Well, let's talk about that a little bit more in detail, because I got some questions to dive into, like the management of all these accounts and security and all that kind of stuff. But first, we'll take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by you, the audience. Instead of looking for new corporate sponsors, I've decided to adopt a pay-per-value model. What that means is you decide on how much I get paid. If you're just browsing and have yet to get value out of the show, don't feel obligated to pay a darn thing. However, if this podcast does its intended job of helping you build your career, build your products, or build your business, consider becoming a sponsor on Patreon. Pick the level of recurring donation that matches the level of value you get out of this show, or make a one-time sponsorship for that big aha moment that have helped turn things around for you. Become a sponsor today at patreon.com/hellotechpros or visit hellotechpros.com/sponsor. Okay, we're back with Matt Schuberg. Matt is the co-founder and CEO of RealCap, which is an innovative way to crowdfund investments in self-storage companies, or a self-storage company that's crowdfunding money to purchase 5 to 10 properties across the nation. We've been talking to Matt about, what's the payout? How do you get started? How much do the investors own? Like, why are we working in the self-storage space in that niche? Like, what's the value that we're going to bring back to the investors and so forth? And Matt, we kind of touched a little bit on the tech behind it, like how you manage all these different accounts if we have 100 or 1,000 people investing in these properties. So you've got a third-party company that's kind of managing the dashboard and all that kind of stuff. Do you have basically, is it a turnkey situation where you guys are the front and you pick like the properties and the investment and stuff like that, and somebody else manages all the security and the logins and the data and security and all that information? Or do you have like your own IT company on top of it?
No, it's exactly how you mentioned. We handle all the things on the front. Obviously, they're not helping us with our investments or anything like that. That's all something we handle, my business partner and I. And yeah, they're definitely, a back end resource that we use, where once a client invests, it's through their dashboard and things like that. And obviously we have the control to make changes and updates and things like that. But yeah, it's pretty much just, on their end, they're handling all the back end stuff, security, everything like that. And we did a lot of research before we went with this company, and security is definitely one of our biggest concerns when it comes to taking people's money. So we wanted to make sure we found the right resource that was very secure and did what we needed it to do, and helped us get to where our goals are.
So this whole crowdfunding space is relatively new, right? In the last several years.
Right.
But if we have other entrepreneurs who are out there listening to this call and thinking, you know what, I love what Matt's doing over there in the self-storage locations. I think that's pretty awesome, but it's not really my gig. What I'm really passionate about is, I don't know, smoothies or IT companies that are going to help large organizations make their data secure, or whatever it is that they want to crowdfund their idea or their company. How would you say an entrepreneur gets started in the crowdfunding space?
Sure. Yeah, and that's definitely a possibility. I mean, crowdfunding is becoming not just real estate focused, but you can do it in any industry. So I think the reason I chose real estate was not only my passion for it, but also it's just a good industry for crowdfunding. I think it just fits really well with the whole crowdfunding concept. But if someone wants to get started in some other industry, my recommendation would be to try to talk with an attorney if you have one. If you don't, try to reach out to some and just get an idea of what would be the best type of offering to do. I mean, there's a lot of different choices when it comes to crowdfunding and how you structure your offering and things like that, and it can get really complicated. So I don't recommend people trying to do it on their own without speaking to an attorney. I think an attorney would be a very useful resource, as well as a CPA or anything like that, to try to get started, because it's just too complicated to try to do it on your own.
Dude, I cannot imagine. My anxiety kind of goes through the roof when I think about, okay, I'm responsible for somebody else's money,
right.
and I'm trying to create a profit both for myself and my family as well as all of my investors. But I want to make sure everything's legit, like everything's legal, everything is by the books, everything is complete transparency and all the best practices that we need to have in place. So how you do that? Well, gosh, I think you nailed it. You got to start with a great team, and that great team is putting the people in place that can back you up and solve all the problems that you're not capable of solving. So like Matt's the idea guy, bringing everybody together, the team builder, the entrepreneur who has this idea and this passion to get it done. And Matt's first thing is, hey, get a lawyer, get a CPA, get all the other people involved that you need to have involved to make your business like legit, and make sure that you don't, accidentally make a mistake that's going to cost you your business in the future.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, when you're taking people's money, it's obviously a very personal matter to them, and you have to have their trust and make sure everything you do is secure. And so, not only on their end, but on your end as well. I mean, there's a lot of regulations when it comes to taking money and things like that as an investment. And so you want to make sure you're protected and your company's protected as well, in case something goes awry or you have some big problem that you didn't expect. So I think attorney is probably the most important thing, to make sure they know what they're doing and they can protect you as well as the investor, and make sure both of you are comfortable with what you're doing. Cool,
man. This sounds very, very interesting. This is an area where I have not thought about, both in the crowdfunding space as well as the self-storage space. So, as my business grows and I start thinking about, okay, where do I want to put, where do I want to reinvest any of the profits that I make from the HelloTech Pros brand? It sounds like a very interesting space, both self-storage as well as just crowdfunding in general. So I appreciate you coming on the show to talk about this stuff. Before we go, can you share any parting words of wisdom that you have for our audience? And then the best way that we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Perfect. Yeah. So, I mean, my parting words would just be, if you're looking to start your own business, you have an idea, I think the main thing to do is just jump in. I mean, obviously, you want to do your research and things like that. You don't want to jump in completely blind, but I think it's something you just need to kind of go for. And it's something I was looking into for a long time. And as soon as I found the idea, I wanted to move forward with it. And I think the most important thing is just not being afraid to see what happens. And, the worst thing that can happen is it doesn't go well and you have to start over, or, you go back to your job if that's what you want to do. But I think most entrepreneurs, they start with a couple failures before they see successes, but the payoff is just so worth it that they learn so much from those failures. They're able to take what they learned and start a great company where they're doing what they love every day, and it's not even work to them. So I think it's a great thing to do, and I think everyone should try it. I think anyone has the ability to be an entrepreneur. But yeah, if you want to reach me, I think the two best ways would either be email, and my email is matt@realcapinvest.com, or through our website. We have a lot of different ways to learn or get in touch with us. So our website, again, realcapinvest.com. So I think those would be probably the two best ways to get a hold of me.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros today. I really value this insight into these niches that, you know what, as tech pros, sometimes we're talking just about the technology. Sometimes we're talking about how to start a tech business. And this is a very interesting model to, you know what, sometimes an entrepreneur is not a person who starts the business, but sometimes it's the person who invests in a growing business or growing opportunity. So thanks for coming on and talking about that today.
Of course. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Chad.
You bet. Tech pros, if you are passionate about starting your own business, I think one of the things Matt has said is, you know what, you just have to jump in. You have to take the risk. You have to decide that it is for you. And if you have that entrepreneurial spirit, like, you have to itch it. You have to scratch it. You have to find a way to get it out of your system and to try it. And if it's real estate investment, great. If it's something other than that, great. But give it a shot. If you have no idea where to start and you want to start thinking about, you know what, I have a great business idea, or I have multiple business ideas, but I don't know where to go with it. I don't know how to get it off the ground. You can check out my free How to Start Your First Biz course, How to Start Your First Business course. It's an email and audio course that I've put together, and it will help you walk through the very first steps of validating your idea, making sure that you can connect with customers, all the things that you need to put in place, including getting those lawyers and accountants on board by going to hellotechpros.com/start. You've been listening to Matt Schuberg, and I'm Chad Bostic. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/249. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If this episode helped you out in any way, please leave a review on iTunes and let me know what you thought. iTunes reviews helps our rankings, which helps us grow the Hello Tech Pros podcast to a broader audience, which helps more technical professionals and techpreneurs build their career, build their products, and build their businesses. If you are a subscriber and get repeat value out of this show, consider becoming a sponsor on Patreon. The information on this podcast is free to everyone, but I'm giving you the opportunity to pay for the value you get out of it, starting as little as $1 a month. Pledge your support today at patreon.com/hellotechpros or visit hellotechpros.com/sponsor.